All right. Thank you guys for coming back. Bill and I very much appreciate it that you're coming back to So What About Crypto? And I think lately, I don't know, Bill, I've been feeling like here at home in the United States, uh, there are two now very distinct schools of thought about what's going on with COVID and everything. And
Hmm.
I know in Georgia where you are, a different mindset
Oh
possibly
yeah,
than where I am in California, but I feel like people here in California are just I don't know. I think there's this sense of a false sense of security a little bit about COVID. I think people are so desperate to get back to normal that um, they're just kind of overlooking the fact that we're still not out of the woods just yet. So it's
yeah,
I don't know what
yeah.
it's been like for
It's
you at
certainly the
home.
same here. Yeah, it's certainly the same here, and just even we have varying degrees of that, even within our family and with among our friends and with business cohorts. It's just people have different ideas on where we are. Georgia is an area where the governor opened things up probably more quickly than most states, and I personally am glad of that, simply because I tend to I don't trust what our government says, quite honestly. Um, that's sometimes nefarious on some people's parts, and sometimes it's just they don't have the data. And I get this a lot from some friends will complain to me. It's like, well, one thing says one thing, one bit of like news, and the other says a complete opposite. And I'm like, yeah, so how do we know what to believe? And yet in the same conversation, we'll have different judgments on what one person should or shouldn't be doing. And I tend to finally reach a conclusion of, well, how do you even know what decision to make? How can you judge me when you just admitted that nobody knows what the truth is?
Yeah.
So that's making it real hard for a lot of people. And even just with relationships, you find those become strained, and just how each other react to what one person may or may not have done, and what they're whether they're going out or wearing a mask or
Right, right.
going to places that other people don't feel you should be doing yet. So yeah,
The
it's
gym,
a
stuff like that.
we're all
Yeah.
going through that. And
Yep.
I happen to even be speaking to my pastor this morning about that. And as a church, we're trying to figure out, or as lead their church leadership is trying to navigate this idea that they call it just like a stoplight here in the United States has yellow, red, and green. People are looking at the COVID um, sort of reopenings in the same way. Some people are, if they're a red person, so to speak, they're just someone who's probably pretty afraid to get out and about. And then there's other people that are yellows who are cautious but still venturing out. And then there's greens who I probably fall more in that camp where I'm out and about and living my life. But at the same time, you know, we're my wife and kids and we're pretty healthy, and we don't have underlying conditions.
Hmm.
And I have other family members who are dealing with, multi-generational homes.
Right,
And,
right. So they have to be
we're
cautious.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to hear yesterday that our schools are going to open up for in-person if we want to, but you can also opt to have your child uh, taught
I
by
think that's a
computer.
nice compromise.
Yeah.
I
And
think that's a nice compromise. I'm probably somewhere in the yellow light. I'm venturing
yeah,
out, but I'm cautious. I know that our gym's opened here in California,
yeah,
but I'm giving that a couple weeks
yeah.
because
And you have to
that
be
place
your
is
kind of your
gross
own.
even without COVID.
Yeah,
Like
you got to make
there's
your own
germs everywhere.
call.
Right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
and and quite honestly, we had friends that are immediately like, how are you dare going to send your kids back to school? Well, our response was, we're pretty healthy, and we don't have an elderly parent living in the home.
Right.
Maybe you do, but so we're making that decision based on what we think is best for our family, I think. But it's difficult for sure.
You know,
And
you know,
and so
I always wonder outside of our bubble in the United States because we are very much as Americans in a bubble, in my opinion. So I'm really curious to see how people in other parts of the world, I know you are too,
Mhm.
are
Yeah.
dealing with COVID and what the thoughts are there, among other things. Obviously, we want to find other thoughts about crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain and all that. But we have with us today Ashish Singhal, and he is with a company called Coinswitch in India. So Ashish, welcome to So What About Crypto? And I don't know if Bill told you, we intentionally left the question mark off of the title of our podcast because we want to leave that up to interpretation for our guests and for listeners to say it the way it makes them feel, their interpretation of what it is. So I want to thank you. Bill thanks you because we had some time zone challenges. You're in India.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
And I'm on the West Coast. So you and I have the extremes, and Bill is on East Coast time. So he's right in the middle. He's doing okay. It's pretty early for me.
So greetings to all you in India. And honestly, when COVID started, I think I've had a heart for people in India more than any other country. And without knowing much about your country, other than
I think a lot of people had
so
that
many
reaction.
people.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people had that reaction, given that we are a developing country, doesn't have a large set of population, but doesn't have the health infrastructure that we need, right? So a lot of people had the worst case scenario, what happens when COVID reaches India, and that's what we are seeing today.
Yeah, so I found it remarkable that your prime minister essentially shut the country down within like 4 hours. That must have been terrifying.
So we've been used to these decisions of extreme decisions. So if you remember, I think 3 years back or 2 years back, the demonetization, where the entire 500 and 1,000 rupee currency notes were banned all of a sudden. So, but this is one of the health crisis, and it's amazing that our government was able to take such a quick action and implement such a good lockdown. The results of it are still yet to be known. The cases are growing in India day by day, and states are opening up again. To be honest, I'm a little scared at this point because our health system are at peak already, right? And it hasn't even reached the levels that we have seen in US, right? So it's a little scary situation out there, but hopefully, some states are doing a very, very good job, including Bangalore, Karnataka, and Bangalore. Bangalore is where I am. So Bangalore is doing an amazing job in contact tracing and, stopping it early at the stage where it's not spread to a lot of people out there, right? And tracking those people down, locking them on home quarantines or external quarantines, and making sure that the other people around them are tested and are safe in this situation.
Yeah, you sound like you're having some of the situations that we're having here in the United States, Bill, where there's some states and their governors of our states are requiring people to wear masks. Like here in California, our governor has said it's mandatory for people to wear masks when they're out in public. Other states, their governors are choosing the complete opposite. So it must be a bit difficult to try to, between states in India, control that too, because you can't stop people from moving about the country in the second most populous country in the entire world, in India.
But here's what kind of blew my mind about it. And for all my misgivings about the US government, I felt like they at least did one thing right, and then that was, I think they prepared us mentally for it. Like every 2 or 3 days, your brain was starting to process a new idea about COVID and what the possibilities, good and bad, may be, mainly bad. So I think as a culture here in the United States, we sort of needed to be eased into the idea that there might be a lockdown. And I think that was the right move, because I think if they had, in the United States at least, just said all of a sudden one day everything is shut down, there would have been a wreck.
Revolts.
Is it a cultural mindset difference, perhaps, that India was able to just sort of have this abrupt lockdown? Or maybe we just didn't know that you guys were being sort of, led slowly down that road as well, but we weren't aware.
So our descent into lockdown was a little extreme than what happened in US, but we got a notice of about a week where we did a lockdown of just one day, and the government was trying to see how that lockdown was it effective, what was there a need of a government lockdown, or a lockdown with, if just notifying the people out there and they do it themselves, right? They realize that that's not possible in India, having such a large population, and a lot of people are like the day laborers, right? They earn their salary on the work that they do on that particular day, can't live without if there is a lockdown, right? So a lot of different factors need to be taken care in, but ultimately the government went with the right intentions, if you ask me, to lock everything down and try to solve each and every situation as and when they face them, right? Because it's not easy to lock such a big country down and have already thought of every single use case, every single issue that may come up, right? So obviously it was terrible for a lot of people, but as per me, it was the right steps. It could have been obviously better, but that was the need of the hour.
Well, India has almost 1.5 billion people. I don't have to tell you, almost 18% of the world's population. And that's got to be on people's minds when you have such a populated country with COVID going through the country like that, the fear, possibly fear of this spreading so fast. Would you say people were much more receptive to the lockdown and the kind of open-ended timeline that we're all kind of looking at right now?
So people were uncomfortable as well, but most of the people took it at a face value because they believe in the government, and they are doing assuming that they are doing the right thing. And everybody understood the health crisis, and everybody understands that in India, the healthcare system is not meant to deal with a situation like COVID, right? Obviously none of the country has had that, but some countries are far ahead, and India is not one of them, right? So everybody understands that our healthcare system cannot take care of so many people at the same time, right? So we needed to flatten the curve at the right moment, and once it gets out, it's out there, right? There is no precaution, there is nothing that you can do to actually stop it from growing, right? It will go through its own course, blocking down everything in its path, right? So yeah, so it was extreme, but I think the government did the right thing in managing it well, although the cases are still growing, and it's still a concern that that lockdown was not as effective as it should have been.
Well, it's interesting you say that you feel the government made the right choice, and that there's general trust in the government. But when it comes to crypto, it's not necessarily the same opinion among Indian people.
Yes. So crypto is a difficult topic in India, and I understand the government point as well. Any new financial entity that comes into the market, which is this volatile, bound to attract the nefarious minds and scams. So the government just wants to keep people safe, right? And there are two extremes to it. One is shut down everything. The other is to come up with a right set of regulations and making sure these things doesn't happen, which a lot of countries, including US, has taken, right? So it's unfortunate that the government earlier had chosen to go the all ban way, and rather than helping the crypto community grow and see the potential of it, and looking at the positive sides of it as well, and they focus too much on the negative side, and try to did an entire ban. Luckily Supreme Court understood the realities and helped helped in March, reverting that ban and helping crypto traders and crypto companies to start innovating in India again, right? There's still some outlines of it still today, but hopefully it will be positive news that is coming out of India very, very soon. And in the coming years, India would become one of the hotspots of crypto community. Yeah.
Well, being a CEO of two crypto companies in India, do you find that you're getting involved on the government level as a lobbyist, or maybe consulting with Parliament, or to what degree are you having to get involved there to help them understand maybe the best move forward?
Sure. So we have a association called AIMAI, which basically talks to government, or deliver government the message by having every crypto company in India, or most of the crypto companies in India, and hearing their thoughts. So AIMAI figures out, these are the right set of regulations that should come out, which helps the user as well as the crypto community in India to help it grow, right? And they communicate the same things to the government, to the ministers, and to the government bodies, right? To be honest, I don't have any personal uh, say, or a personal, meeting hours with the government officials to help them explain my case. But how it is happening in India is that through IMI, all the crypto communities are giving their views, and they are the one compiling these views and sharing with the government, in the hopes of that they understand the need of crypto in India, and they come up with the right set of regulations. Regulations are very important. Nobody denies that, right?
Mhm.
User protection should be at the topmost of every company, every government, right? But instead of simply banning it, probably a right set of regulations which help grow this the alternate financial ecosystem would be a better bet for the government as well as for the users.
You just said that there is a need for crypto in India. And this is what I like to point out to our listeners who are brand new and just starting to learn about Bitcoin and blockchain technology um, in the United States. Because I feel like here in the United States, the general consensus is, why do we need this? We have a banking system. We have a system that we have been using, and we're okay with it. But on the other hand, you say the people in India need it. Why do you feel that the people in India need this type of technology and
Sure.
cryptocurrency?
So India is one country that can benefit out of crypto the most. The reason being that Indian infrastructure, if you look at banks, if you look at any banking situation in India, right? It's not meant to support 1.3 billion people, right? And crypto being can be the savior for these unbanked people, right? Uh, Crypto has a low onboarding, has easy to understand how things work. People who doesn't even have a bank account can now talk to each other and participate in this financial ecosystem, right? Which currently they are not getting the opportunity for, because banks don't have the incentive to provide them this infrastructure. This infrastructure doesn't exist for a lot of people in India, right? Which crypto can lead that front. So that is why it's very, very important in India.
And I think that's a message that
Well,
people who, I mean, Bill, unless you disagree, I feel like that's the message, not just banking the unbanked, because there are a lot of terms that people in this space that we're in throw around, and that's one of them, banking the unbanked. But I feel like, this is blockchain and crypto, and the freedom it can give becomes more apparent the more marginalized a community is. I feel like a lot of Americans don't feel, or many don't generally feel, they're marginalized. They are in ways that maybe they don't understand. But in other countries like India and countries within Africa, there is a great understanding of what this type of technology and cryptocurrencies can do for people to give them the freedom to bank around the world. I don't think people understand that. Think about it, if you didn't have a bank, Bill, if you didn't have a debit card or credit card, how could you travel about the country? You can't book hotels and rent cars and, transact on the internet and all these things without some kind of technology behind it to help you transfer that money around. Even, PayPal and some of these other payment systems are giving people some of that freedom. But I don't think people
Not to
here
that
in the
extent.
United States make that connection that, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. There's a lot of people who can't even have a bank account.
Yeah. I think it's just about relating to the situation. And in India, you can, because almost 20% of the people are unbanked. So you feel that, so even in the COVID situation, right? So how you distribute funds to them, how you make sure, the everyone is receiving in the right manner. Crypto or cryptocurrencies, the blockchain can help a lot, right? A lot of people have tried it and have succeeded in this domain, and I feel that this is the future going forward, which is equal for all, right? You rightly pointed out that the financial system is not equal for everyone, and I think that's very true in India as well. It works differently for different set of people, and crypto being equal for all and providing the base of financial system to everyone equally is an amazing thing.
So we all know that India has a wealth of smart, educated developers that probably get used more often than anyone imagines in the development of the internet and protocols and applications for the whole world to use. To what degree does crypto represent, in the eyes of developers, an opportunity to serve India more than the rest of the world?
I think it holds an immense position at this point. So a lot of financial ecosystems are closed, right? In India, to build a new financial service, it's a little difficult, right? You have to get a lot of licenses. You have to work with banks who have their own set of rules and regulations, which are different for different people, right? Now, building something, a financial service or anything on that sort, is much easier to do it on a decentralized network, right? To be able to build global, looking at the global market rather than the local market. So I think these 2 points, because of these 2 points, it in India, most of the developers that I have met, in Ethereum forums or in hackathons, so that is their approach. That it gives them that freedom to innovate, right? And India doesn't have have a lot of great developers. They have a lot of potential, and we are seeing that in action by looking at how Indians have built a lot of good blockchain applications and are building companies for the world, and not just India. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Well, you mentioned hackathon. I read in your profile you're a hacker to the core.
Yeah, tell us about that. You have a past, Ashish.
Yes. So let me give you a little brief on who I am. I'm a computer science engineer from NSIT Delhi. Uh, I started my career in Microsoft, then Amazon, building a lot of their product and tech. I built Amazon's backend engine handling over 100,000 transactions a second. Have built Amazon Prime Now, which probably you guys have used, which is their 1 hour delivery service in US and many other countries. I was a lead for that. And apart from all that, I am a hacker at heart. So any hackathon that anyone can think of in India, including Sequoia Hack, Google Code for India, Amazon's Rujin, uh, I would have won it, right? So I like to build things fast and try to solve problems, right? So in Google Hackathon, we built a problem which we faced in India regarding how do you make sure in a natural disaster crisis, how do you track people, and how do you make sure that you help the survivors, right? So we built a solution using drones and IR receivers, which World Bank really liked, and took that decision and to make actual product out of it, right? So I really like solving problems, and that's where my affinity to hackathons comes in, right? To solve big problems.
I know some of the things you said, I like to clarify for people listening because we're geared more towards people who are just starting to learn. And I don't ever
Sure.
want them to feel intimidated by some of the things we say. That's why I wanted to define and kind of highlight what being unbanked means. You talked about Ethereum, which is another type of digital currency, cryptocurrency. In your answer, you were just talking about. And you also talked about you have such a rich background in technology. So for you, I would assume that it was a very natural jump to go to what you were doing, go from what you were doing before to the cryptocurrency world and blockchain. You found it very fascinating. But
Yeah.
what about the general feel of people in India?
So I think people, if you look at normal retail users who are not developers, right? They have a different idea about cryptocurrency altogether. For them, it's a tool to make gains, to invest their money in, and because of the market, uh, probably invest a bit in cryptocurrencies and have gains through it, right? So for some other people, it's a tool to make salaries easier. For others, it make sense to accept payments in cryptocurrencies as a new way of people paying them and availing their services. So it means obviously different for different people. For a developer community, it's more about freedom of building financial services out there, uh, not just financial in any field, but mostly people are building towards the new financial ecosystem. For normal retail users, it's about investment. It's also about usage of Bitcoin, maybe in transferring money all over the world, or having business accepting payments from anywhere around the world without actually figuring out how to set up payment systems, how to deal with banks, handling remittance, right? So it means different thing for different people at this point. Does that make sense, or do you want me
Oh,
to? Yeah.
absolutely. Like I said, I feel like people see the value of blockchain and crypto depending on how marginalized they feel they are.
Yes.
Do you feel like the government may be a little bit concerned or worried about a transition of power to the people of India? There's almost 1.5 billion people in India, and you think about the kind of freedom this technology and currency can give people. It certainly takes it out of the hands of the government and banks and allows people to transact with one another without that middleman and fees and everything else that comes with it.
Yeah.
um, that's a lot of power for one country to hold. Do you think the Indian government is very much aware of that and maybe not helping this along as fast as it could be?
I think that's a fair argument. But to be honest, crypto is still a very, very small thing in the eyes of the government, right? It hasn't reached to a potential where it can be a threat to rupees or US dollars, right? And what we believe as innovators is that it's an alternate finance. It's not both can exist together. So it's not either or, right? So it's about that, both serving a set of users to make sure that their life become easy. Some people, banks are the right way to go because they're running businesses, complying with a lot of rules and regulations. But think about a vendor who is probably trying to sell uh, anything which is, say, outside India, or providing a teacher providing educational lessons to people in US, right? So for them to start setting these things up becomes a little difficult, and provides an alternate for them to do it, right? So to answer your question, it hasn't become that threat yet, but obviously government had that in mind, and that is one of the reason that they have banned crypto. The other reason that they banned crypto was because of the the high volatility in the market. So they were looking after the users who are investing in crypto and probably losing money, right? So they were worried about that. So ban was mostly about that, but obviously a part of it could be related to that they feel that it can threaten INR or US dollar at some point in time. But in my opinion, that time hasn't come yet, or that time may never come, and both systems may exist together and flourish together.
So I tend to, and starting to get a sense that maybe India and the government of India is no different than what the United States is, or maybe even China, perhaps. I think in the crypto world, we tend to see a lot of sensationalism, and people want to get a headline that says, "Oh, India is banning crypto," and I'm quite possibly in India, you get the same sort of headlines, and hear that the United States
Yes.
is going to. You think that's the case, where it's just maybe the governments aren't as concerned as the crypto journalists want you to think?
So that's true to a lot, to a great extent, right? There aren't a lot of news coming out of crypto because crypto is very small if you think about it today, right? It doesn't impact at a government level today. It does to an extent, right? And that extent is very small. So obviously, the different news have different spins on the news which comes out, make it more sensational, make it more click worthy, or the read worthy, those articles. But that's not the case what is actually happening on the ground, right? On the ground, people are obviously concerned about user protection and 100 different things, but it's not that sensational, or to be highlighted at that India is banning crypto, or US is against Ethereum altogether, and things like that, right? So every government body is taking its own time to understand the technology, as well as to take the right steps for user protection, which is very, very important, right? If they need to ban it, and they think that it's a risk to users, they have the right to ban it. But after ban, they need to understand the need for a set of users, and open it up by launching regulations rather than keeping it locked down, right? So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think here, at least my impression here in the United States, beyond the sensationalism of some of the journalists and media corporations, like you said, that need the views, the clicks, and all of that, I think there is a general fear of leveling the playing field. Because we often hear people in this space say it's going to be a paradigm shift. Well, what does that mean? And I think you clearly laid it out that it's going to give people freedom and a little bit more power, not necessarily eliminating the rupee or the dollar or the euro, but maybe working in tandem. But I think there is a fear among banks, central banks, centralized
Yeah.
banks, that there's going to be a lot of money and a lot of power shifted to the people that they once had the luxury of having a monopoly on.
That's absolutely right. So that fear will obviously not go away, and it's a true fear as well, right? This is where things are heading. Either they can be innovate on this technology, or block this technology, right? It's gonna happen sooner or later. So it's their choice. Obviously, when there are two financial ecosystems, money flows through both, right? And a single dominant ecosystem doesn't remain anymore, which we have today, right? So obviously they have fears into losing out a market share, but this also gives them an opportunity to innovate in that field, right? If they want to be part of it, they can still be part of it by innovating the same way the other people are doing. It's a same level field, as you said. So they have to compete with the companies what they are building, and still may not have a stronghold as they have in the current financial ecosystem. But as this is a level field, so they have equal right to come and innovate and build products for this ecosystem as well.
So the product you've built, one of the many, Coinswitch.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So we started with an idea of making crypto easier in 2016. So being a hacker, the Coinswitch platform comes as a hack itself. So uh, you would know that a price of a crypto varies from one exchange to another because it's simply based on demand and supply. So similar to, say, a flight aggregator, which basically aggregate different flight routes and different flight providers into a single platform and let user choose, what is the best price and best route for them. Similarly, we built a platform which aggregate prices from various exchanges like Binance, HitBTC, OKX, ChangeNow, Changely, and let user know what is the price going on different exchanges. We do deep integration with these exchanges, so people can convert these crypto directly on our website without leaving the website. So they get the best rate and they get the ease of use that they're looking for, right?
So
So
it's
this
like,
is,
I mean, just
yeah,
to give people something to relate to, a cryptocurrency exchange is like an exchange you would use if you were going to another country and wanted to exchange
yeah,
your native money for that country's native money. It's
yes,
similar. It's similar with cryptocurrencies. You want to trade your native money for cryptocurrency or digital currency of your choice.
yes. And since different exchange rate would exist whenever you are exchanging with someone may agree that, okay, $1 equal to 100 INR. Someone may agree that, okay, $1 equal to 110 INR. So what we do is we aggregate all these rates from different exchanges and give user the benefit of getting the best rate out of it, right? So we suggest user that, okay, this exchange is giving you a rate of 100, this exchange is giving you a rate of 110, and you can come and choose the one that you want to, right? And user can choose the best rate and start converting their cryptocurrencies.
So so let's say I go to Binance
Yeah,
and deposit some Bitcoin, which then allows me to exchange that for another, like for Ethereum, and maybe I trade that back and forth and try to make some money.
sure.
So, but I'm actually, I'm essentially allowing Binance to hold my cryptocurrency. So they really
Yes.
have my money, and it can be, possibly hacked and
Yeah.
taken away. And as is the way with many exchanges. If I'm looking at your situation, it almost looks as like, am I just putting
Yeah.
money in an account on yours? Are you
No,
custodying
so
my
we are,
crypto?
yeah, so we are a non-custodian exchange. So when you come to the platform, you say you want to convert Bitcoin to Ethereum. We ask you your Ethereum address. You transfer your Bitcoin to us, and Ethereum, it gets converted to Ethereum and transferred back to your wallet. Your wallet could be a hardware wallet, a custody wallet, or an exchange wallet, or any wallet for that matters, right? So Coinswitch never keeps your funds. We keep your fund for a very short period in time in which the conversion is happening. So user get that security because they never have to trust an exchange to keep their funds.
Okay,
Which for new
so
people listening, by the way, one of the sayings in the crypto community, not your keys, not your coins. Basically, that kind of broken down means if you don't offload your cryptocurrency onto a hard wallet, they call it cold storage, offline, you're susceptible to hacks. But the difference is, I just want to explain for people who are new to this, because all these terms get thrown around. People worry. One of the biggest questions Bill and I get asked a lot when we're out shooting on location is this safe? I can Bitcoin and these others be hacked? Well, Bitcoin itself and the blockchain for Bitcoin hasn't been hacked, but your funds are only as safe as the exchange is if you're relying on the exchange to hold on to your funds like a bank. So, yes, people hear of these hacks, but a lot of times it's the exchanges that are holding your crypto that get hacked, not the actual cryptocurrency like Bitcoin itself that gets hacked. So I apologize. I'd like to clarify for people so they don't feel left out of the conversation.
sure.
But
And
yes,
well,
Yeah,
but also, Binance is that ability to like I'm looking at your site Coinswitch, where I can see that I can easily say, I can put in, hey, I've got 0.5 Bitcoin. So, for those of you watching the live stream, you can see me doing this on screen, and it gives me the opportunity to exchange that into Ethereum, and it tells me how many Ethereum I would get, but it also tells me how many Ethereum I would get from any of a number of different exchanges. So I'm the one that chooses that exchange I want to buy it on, or is it Coinswitch that chooses that
Yeah.
for me?
So we recommend you an exchange based on price and the reliability of that exchange. But ultimately, you are the one, the user is the one who gets to choose which exchange they want. They may have some affinity to some exchange, or the order execution might be faster for some exchange that they want to go with, right? So
Mhm.
it's up to user to decide what they want.
So in Binance, I can go look at trading pairs and charts and all of those types of things. You're not really offering that here.
We are not so we are a very simple we are meant for retail users who don't want to go through the complexity of trade understanding trades, understanding order books, understanding charts, who simply want to acquire Bitcoin or acquire any of the currencies, right? So we simply let you or let the users have a simplest way to get cryptocurrencies without actually holding their funds, and providing them the security and the speed that they need to acquire any cryptocurrency for that matter.
Mhm. Does this allow for what they call arbitrage, where people are trying to quickly go back and forth
So
between exchanges?
So currently it does not, and we do. So we already split orders across exchanges, making sure that the user always get the best rate, right? So the heavy lifting is done by the platform, making sure that user is always getting the best rate. But obviously, it's meant for retail users who don't understand the complexity of arbitrage, or even uh, the complexity of trade and order books. Like, so yeah.
Hmm. So, so I guess, I had to wrap my mind around it a bit because I'm used to sort of having to put
Sure.
crypto on an exchange to use it. In this case,
Yeah.
you're taking the funds momentarily and then doing the transaction among
Yes.
many different exchanges. So you're kind
Yes.
of a middleman in a way.
Yes, exactly.
But
So
but
we
what
are like a broker in front of all these exchanges that you would ideally go and use directly.
Mhm. Are
And
there
just
other
that's very different than uh, most exchanges out there, Ashish, right? Because most
Yes,
exchanges, you trade your native currency for whatever cryptocurrency or digital
yes,
currency you want, and
yeah,
that exchange can hold it for you in a wallet. You don't
yes.
do that, and that's
So we
a
do that.
significant difference.
So we do that as well. So because Coinswitch is a global brand, so in except India, you can only trade one crypto to another. But in India, we have a platform called Coinswitch Kuber. You can visit coinswitch.co/in to have a look at it. But so how it works is it's exactly like Coinbase, where you can buy any cryptocurrency with rupees, right? And we support 100 plus cryptocurrencies, and you can easily buy anything that you want with single click, right? So you still on even on that platform, you don't have to worry about order books, trade books. You can simply go download the app and deposit INR into it and buy any cryptocurrency that you want. So we just launched it a month back, and yeah, so we are progressing. So after the RBI ban was lifted, this was our product in India.
And that was the government ban you were talking
Yes,
about earlier
yes, yes,
for India. Okay,
well,
so
this certainly looks
people
like an easy way to buy a lot of different tokens because I'm looking at
yes.
your
so
Bill's
so the
shopping.
yeah. Not that
so
I'm not recommending anything, and just so everyone knows we're not financial advisors.
Right, of course, but uh, just you mentioned Coinbase and
yeah,
Binance. Just for the new people listening, those are other very, very popular exchanges where you can buy multiple different types of digital currency, cryptocurrencies, and store it there or offload it onto your own little cold storage, which we explained earlier. Your own little, almost like a little hard drive of your money. So while Bill's shopping, I, I wanted to ask you, Ashish. So when you first heard about uh, Bitcoin and blockchain technology, I mean, you were probably one of the first people in the world to hear about this emerging technology before the rest of us, because you were already a developer. You were already in that world, sort of. So I would imagine the transition was pretty easy for you. But when you first heard about it, what were some of your first thoughts?
So in 2013, when I read the Bitcoin white paper, I was totally blown away, and that this can be done as well, because from the technical standpoint, that was a standout, right? It has never been done before, and somebody has figured out a way to have a distributed ledger and verify transactions on a distributed ledger, right? So that was an amazing, mind blown moment. Obviously, I couldn't do anything with it at that time because a lot of technology was built, but there was no interface that was there, or there were no easy way to acquire Bitcoin or trade Bitcoins in India at that point, right? So it took a little while. Then a lot of exchanges came up in India, and in later we also decided to build an exchange with a single focus in mind, the simplicity, right? See, when I started Coinswitch in 2017, my goal was very singular, that I want to make a platform where even my parents can buy and sell cryptocurrencies, right?
Do
And
they?
so last week, so 2 weeks back, when we launched our INR platform, where you can buy cryptocurrencies in INR, my mother, who is 65 years of age, bought her first Bitcoin. So that was
Ah,
the realest proud moment that I could ever have, and it basically proved, or all my years of hard work was proven right at that point, that I built what I set out to do, right? And it's not easy to make it that simple. So the team worked really, really hard. And I'm not sure if I'm able to explain the gravity of fulfilling that wish that I had 3 years ago, but we are really excited to be in India now, providing a service where people can buy and sell cryptocurrencies with such an ease that even my mother can purchase these
So
currencies. Yeah.
I read in an interview that you did, well, I can't remember where, that you try to focus on only one sort of metric as a
Yes.
goal for your team. So apparently your goal was, if my 65-year-old mother can buy it, that's the goal,
So when we set out to do, build Coinswitch, everyone says that they want to build a simple product, right? But my team asked me, how do you measure the simplicity of your product? What is your metrics, right? And investors asked me, what is your metrics to be building a simplistic product? I said the metrics is the day my parents are able to buy it. At that day, I would know that I have made a good product.
but
Okay,
that's
what?
so
And
true. I
Yeah.
cannot tell you, I cannot emphasize enough. I've been, I consider myself still a newbie, a little under 2 years in this space. I cannot get my parents, who are also 65, and my dad, who is in his 70s, to do it. I mean, it can. I mean, I could hand it to them, ready to just push a button, and they won't do it. But I guess we would say here in the United States that if you can get your boomer parents to do it, then you have succeeded. I'm
yeah,
not. I'm not saying I'm not a millennial, or I'm Gen X. I, but so even if I'll throw myself in there, saying even if a Gen Xer can do it and a boomer can do
everyone
it,
can.
you guys can do it.
Yeah. So that was the idea behind Coinswitch, and I think with our launch in India of Coinswitch Kuber, we are making the right strides.
Mhm.
Obviously, we have a long, long way to go, and the regulations in India need to support us, and a lot of users need to support us. But I think we are on the right track, making crypto easy and being just that single goal, and making our focus on our product, making sure that we provide the best usable product in India to be able to get into cryptocurrencies. And as you all know, once you get into cryptocurrencies, the opportunities are endless, right? So we wanted to be the gateway of people getting into crypto in India, and hopefully we would be there very soon.
So let's talk about CruxPay then.
Yeah.
I like that, and I think there are other blockchains maybe trying to do the same thing, but you make
Yeah.
it more of, instead of exchanging keys, these super long strings of letters and numbers that are difficult to identify if you're entering them correctly. Yours is more like an email, like a Venmo or
Yes.
something.
Yes. So what we have done is, so we have all faced this issue that whenever we are transferring funds to friends or exchanges, we need to verify addresses time and again, right? Because
Sure, it's like
these are
if you're
not
sending money to somebody in a bank account, you need to know their bank account
their
number,
bank
right?
account. Exactly.
Same things. So with a
Yes.
wallet, you need to know their wallet number, but these numbers
Yes.
tend to be a huge long string of letters and numbers combined, and you'll never
And-
memorize it.
yes, exactly. And with crypto, the problem is that transactions are irreversible. It's not a problem; it's a feature, but it's a problem for people who miss out, or mistype these addresses and lose the funds forever, right? So what we do is we provide human readable IDs, which can be binded to all your addresses. So instead of exchanging addresses of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and anything with your friends and exchanges, you can simply use an ID forever, right? And all the heavy lifting is done by this ID, resolving addresses, making sure it's going to the right one. It's owned by you. It's not hackable, and so all the security and the user interactability is taken care by this ID. So in the crypto ecosystem, if you have this ID, that's all you need.
So who sort of assigns the ID? Are you guys the clearinghouse for that?
So
What is kind of
yeah,
like a domain name?
exactly like a domain name. And what we do is we tie up with wallets, and wallet, you can go to any of our partner wallets and create a Crux ID. And basically, you can type a name, figure out which is available, which is not, and choose the one that you like. Right. So it's
So
as simple as
I could be like Superman at CRUX.
that. Yeah. So so anything that you like, which is available, you can choose that and start using it.
So imagine this, everybody. I mean, if you're listening, your email could be a way to get paid. You can send your email. Am I getting this right? You send your email to someone saying you pay me at this address, and they
Exactly.
can send you the money back in your email, and it's there. You have it.
Yeah. So instead of just sharing addresses, which can change over time, and the kind of wallets you're using, or anything that for that matter, right? So you might demand different currencies at different points from different users. So you have to change those addresses, and those are confusing as well, right? Instead of that, now you can share a single ID with anyone that you want, and they can send and receive funds using this ID very simply. So yeah.
So all right. So I'm familiar with like .crypto and .zil and these sort
Yeah.
of domain names that Elsa and I have
Yes.
both secured our own versions of these things, although we haven't really used them. So I if I'm
Same
understanding
concept,
those, if I'm
right,
understanding,
Bill?
well, maybe not, but that's what I'm trying to get to.
Sure.
Is if I use .zil and I give somebody my, I'm Bill at .zil, for instance,
Sure.
then they send that money to that .zil address. I have to deal only with that .zil address to
Yes.
get maybe only a certain type of currency exchanged.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I understand it. But with CruxPay, is it that all I need is a bill at .crux?
Yeah. So it's basically
I could say I
yeah,
want some Ethereum sent to my Divi wallet, or I want some Monero sent to from that wallet to a another wallet I may have. But using just that address, I could do any of those things.
so these addresses are, or these names, Crux IDs, are created on wallets. So they are wallet specific. So say if you're creating a wallet, your Crux ID on Divi wallet, then all the addresses in your Divi wallet are linked to that Crux ID. So whenever you are,
I
say,
see.
you're sharing
Okay.
with Elsa to transfer Bitcoin, it will always reach your Divi wallet. If you're using my Monero to create Crux ID, then all the addresses in my Monero wallet would be linked to your Crux ID. So it's wallet dependent today. We would have future releases where you can, even interlink wallets together, so that if you're using 5 different wallets, you can use a single ID to send and receive funds across, right?
So it's like
Is-
having
But
a bunch of bank accounts all together in one, and you just use one
yes,
ID to be able to
yes.
choose which account in your wallet you want that money to go, or that crypto to go to.
Yeah, so something like that. And for now, the idea is it works like a bank account. So similarly, how you show share bank account details and you receive the funds in that particular bank. similar to that, you share the Crux ID and you receive the funds in that particular wallet itself, right? So you can create two wallets, say one for business and one for personal, and try sharing different IDs to different people to receive money in different wallets, right? And the good part about CruxPay is instead of just sharing IDs, you can send payment requests to others. So I can request you a payment. In your wallet, there would be a pop-up similar to how it's explained on the here. You will basically receive a payment request where you simply have to say accept or deny. If you say accept, the payment would be deducted from your wallet and will automatically go to the requester, right? So you don't even have to deal with the complexity of adding anyone's Crux ID into your wallet or typing anything, right? So it
Their
works like,
account number and
yeah,
all that
yes,
stuff.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So it works like Venmo or PayPal, where you simply
Right.
receive a request and you simply click pay or not pay, and all is done in the background.
Is .crux like for instance .zil, .crypto? I think there's a .eos or in various numbers. They
Yeah.
can act as actual web addresses that I could build a website on that
Yes.
could actually be separate
No.
from the
So
rest of the World Wide Web.
yeah,
Is Crux
yeah.
.crux like that?
No, so we are simply a naming and a pull payment service. We don't deal with domain name services right now.
Okay.
So this is important, and I want to explain to the people who are learning why. 2 years ago, when I first started learning about Bitcoin and blockchain, there were a bunch of different exchanges. I didn't know where to start, which is the best one, which one is trustworthy, because early on in this game, there were people who put money in exchanges and bought crypto and kept their money there, and then it disappeared. There were scams, just as there are scams in the stock market and other places where money is flowing and there's a lot of money to be made. Yes, there are scams too, but I started learning that there's a bunch of different exchange choices I could choose from to buy my crypto. But then the problem was on certain exchanges, you could only buy certain cryptos. Other exchanges, you could only buy certain cryptos. Not every exchange has every single crypto. So I found myself as a new person, a newbie, going to maybe Binance to buy this crypto that was available there, but going to Coinbase exchange and buying a crypto over here because it's not offered on Binance, and vice versa. So this is important for people to understand that if everything is all in one place, it makes it so much easier, less stressful, and less fear that you're going to click a wrong button and your funds are going to go out somewhere, into the universe, because you're dealing with different exchanges and trying to remember, well, I've got this money here on this exchange and this money here on this exchange. This kind of puts it all together under one roof, under one umbrella, so that you don't have to think as much and worry as much that you're doing the right thing. Is that kind of the idea behind this?
That is the kind of idea behind it, that at later point when you're transferring from funds from one exchange to another, you never have to worry about what those addresses look like, right? And you should be able to use a single human readable ID to be able to transfer funds from anywhere that you want, right? And that becomes your identity in the crypto ecosystem, right? If your friends want to send you funds, if you want to send funds to some other, you can use simple human readable IDs, so that you don't make the mistakes, right, of losing your funds, sending to a wrong address, or sending a wrong kind of fund to a different wallet altogether, right? So yeah.
So you're a hacker
Yeah.
at heart, hacker to the core.
Yeah.
What do you bring to this, especially when building something that you want people to trust and know that they're not going to lose their money or get hacked and get their funds stolen?
So
what goes through your mind? What tools do you employ? How do you approach, how do you build that unhackable system, if that exists?
That doesn't exist. So you can't build an unhackable system, but you can make it certainly harder to hack a system, right? So you take basic measures, securing your servers, securing your DNS, securing your access, making sure you have multiple firewalls and different security access. You make sure. So there are a lot of technical details that goes into securing a system. And you make sure that you do regular pen testing. You get regular pen testing done on your systems, making sure that you are aware of the vulnerabilities and you constantly are fixing it, right? It's almost impossible to build a system which cannot be hacked if the hacker is good enough and persistent enough that any systems can be hacked, right? But what we can do is we can just stay a step ahead of hackers, and making sure that our security is at the top level and we are aware of the issues and we are constantly fixing issues and testing our system again and again.
So by having a single, all right, so if I have a CruxPay address in an Ethereum wallet and a CruxPay address in a Divi wallet, are they the same address?
They are different addresses.
Okay,
as long
so
as
it's not as if someone knows you're one, like someone could find my email and get access to various things. It's not like they can wipe you out completely if you have things distributed.
So if your wallets were created using different 12-word seed or 24-word seed, then obviously those two are separate wallets altogether, would have separate Crux IDs altogether, right? So nobody can know any of those. If they were used, they were used to create the 12-word seed was used, the same 12-word were used to create these wallets, then obviously both would be same. The Crux IDs would still be different, but pointing to the same wallet.
And if you're using a wallet that can have multiple cryptocurrencies in it, then if you have everything in that wallet, then they could have access if they could hack your
seed. Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, seed, just to explain, I'm just trying to hold hand, do some hand holding because I needed this when I was learning about it. The seed word is when you create a wallet, you're given, there's been a 12-word
24
24 you write these down or put them away where they cannot be found, because if you lose your device or you forget your password for your digital wallet, if you have these seed words, you can recover it. If you don't have the seed words, which is another thing I think that scares people at this stage of the game, that if they don't have the seed words, they could potentially lose what they have in that particular wallet that those seed words belong to. So maybe one day in the future we'll get past that too, to make adoption a little bit easier.
Well, as a white hat hacker, what would be your best advice to people, knowing what people are capable of doing that's not good out there? What would you say are the 3 top things a person should be doing to make sure they're not vulnerable?
So make sure that you're constantly changing your passwords for your emails, your any account that has sensitive information. Always assume that your email is already hacked, so don't keep sensitive information there. Use LastPass or services like that to store and keep on rotating your passwords for any platform that you work on. If you have 12-word seed or 24-word seed, please don't keep them online. Always keep them offline, printed on a paper, probably at your home. And there are other things that high advanced users can use, which I'm not gonna go into. But always assume that your email is hacked, and don't keep sensitive information there. I think that is the the easiest way for people to get into and get the informations out, right? So keep it offline, keep it secure, create wallets which provide that functionality, and always keep your funds there, right? If it's not online, it cannot be hacked. As simple as that.
So like if I'm like somebody may, or let's say it's Elsa, may say, hey Bill, I need the password, the username and password for this account we share or something. I'm the type that I would always just send her the username by email and text her the password. Am I just wasting my time doing that?
So yeah. So let's not so that's a pretty easy way to get hacked, because we have to assume that hacking these devices or hacking email IDs is very easy, because a lot of people don't have second auth 2FAs enabled on emails and all that, and we use obviously regular easy to guess passwords, which other people can simply with some technology can guess and hack, right? So always use services like LastPass or any other password sharing tool to have that important information pass through, and always enable 2FA if you can on your accounts, making sure that they are secure.
What do you
2FA
recommend
for
for
people.
2FA?
Yeah. Go
So
ahead, Ashish.
so 2FA are different for different platform. Ultimately, it's a code that you need to scan and keep somewhere, right? Which regularly generates every 60 seconds generates a password for you, right? So
Like a
you can
Google
use
Authenticator. It's
yes,
an
yes,
authenticator
yes,
app that
yes.
generates a passcode at what, like you said, every 20, 30 seconds
60,
that you would use to log in that your
yes,
account is synced with.
yes.
And
So
it's
but
unique to your device.
yeah, yes. So it's unique to your device and unique to your account. So it's linked to both, and that makes sure that hackers can never access, because in this short amount of time they can never guess that 2FA password, right? So you need to make sure. So securing that also is very very important. Make sure your 2FA seed is not shared with anyone and is secure offline, uh, rather than securing them online, right? So if you take these few measures, I think a lot of hacking that happens today can be avoided.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking from experience, I was SIM swapped last year,
Oh,
and so I had to
Twice.
learn the hard way about, Bill, remember, I had to learn the hard way. I was SIM swapped twice.
oh,
And I thought I took all the precautions, but I had to learn the hard way that, I needed the Google Authenticator app and all these extra layers of security. So don't find out the hard way. Look into
yeah,
that. But don't take it from me. Ashish is the hacker. So this is advice from a hacker. So take his
Yeah.
advice on this, and a lot of other things that he's talked about during our podcast today. Ashish, Bill and I can't thank you enough for being with us today on the podcast to and help us walk newbies through some of the terms and that we use and ways to learn about how to become a little more crypto savvy.
it was pleasure being here, and it was really great interacting with Bill, you and Elsa. Yeah.
Hey,
Ashish
Elsa.
Singhal, by the way, CruxPay and Coinswitch. We'll have your information, Ashish, in our show notes, by the way, for people who are
Awesome.
interested in doing a
Yeah.
little more research. You were to say
you're-
something, Bill?
Well, this is going to be our 5th episode. This is our first international guest. We've
Oh, yeah, that's right.
so we pulled it
and
off.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm so glad the signal held up the entire time. I mean, that's all we can ask for these days, right?
Exactly.
Thank
All
you.
right, Ashish, thank you so much.
Thanks a
Enjoy
lot,
your
guys.
Friday night.
Thank
It
you.
is Friday evening where you are, and in India. And I know you can't go out, you mentioned, because of COVID, and it's a rainy night. So please enjoy a wonderful night at home. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks. Bye.